Hello and welcome. Today we are going to talk about Standard of Iron, which is a project of mine on which I was working on for quite some time now. And as you can guess from the title, and you can also see it here, it is an RTS game, and it has a custom-made game engine, render engine, audio engine. Everything is built from scratch and custom-made for the purpose of this project. And so here you have some dependencies. Of course, we need a programming language, so the main language is C++. But we use also a couple other languages, and I will explain in a second what are they for. But the main one is C++, and here, as you can see, C++20, because I try to use as many newer techniques as possible. But of course, I don't know all of them. So whenever I learn something, I try to apply it here. But the standard is getting more and more complex. So mere mortals like myself cannot follow all of it. And for sure, there are a lot of things already done here, even though it's quite a fresh project that can be modernized and to follow even like the newer standards even better. So that's like the C++, which is our core language. And then we have two big dependencies, Qt 6 and OpenGL 3.3. So Qt is used for everything UI related. So the whole UI, the window that is getting opened, where the application is rendered, this is all done by Qt, and also all the events are controlled by Qt, and mouse movements, clicks, the keyboard stuff, and so on. And then OpenGL is for low-level, not programming, low-level rendering. And on top of that is my rendering engine, which controls things like a camera. It renders the whole scene, all the entities like the troops, the villages, biome, or like trees, and so on. Everything is rendered through my engine, but on top of OpenGL. And here, let's go back to those languages. The QML is the one that is coming from Qt 6. So QML is a declarative language which allows you to just say, to describe whatever you want your UI to have, let's say a layout. It may be a grid, maybe like some column, and inside you want some UI elements, buttons, inputs, or whatever. And the QML is just a declarative language, somewhat similar, maybe not very similar, but somewhat similar to CSS. And or you can use, there is some overlap between them, but of course QML I think is much more advanced, or in some other aspects probably CSS is also advanced. So just to give you like a quick idea what it is if you have never heard of it. And GLSL is a language used by OpenGL to define all the faders and those small programs that run on GPU. And of course, OpenGL allows us to take some work out of CPU and do it on the GPU. And we want for the rendering part to do as much as possible on the GPU. Yeah, and not everything is done yet, but I'm trying to move as much as possible to the GPU. But I will talk about the assets and the meshes and how are they created later when we will talk about the code itself. Yeah, so those are the big things. Then we have some shell, Python, CMake and makefiles. Shell and Python are just like scripts, helper scripts to do some stuff related to the repository, but not necessarily to the game itself. Yeah, so the game doesn't, the final application doesn't depend on any of them. It's just like some helper things for the repository. And CMake is used to define the build. So we want to compile everything efficiently and be as cross-platform as possible. And that's what CMake is used for. So to go from the code which is written to the executable application. And makefile, we have one big makefile which is quite extensive, and it allows for the developers to do various stuff quickly. Like, let's say I want to install all the dependencies, and of course it doesn't work on Windows, but on Linux, and I think there is also huge overlap with Mac. You can just write make install in the main directory of the repository, and it will install all the dependencies that you want to run. You just write make run, and it will compile and run the application under the hood. It also is used for formatting and some other stuff. By the way, we can just click on it and see. Yeah, so it defines some variables here. There is also like a Clang format that is used under the hood, some colors for output. But basically, here are all the things that you can do with it. So we can install the dependencies, configure, build for debug, build for release, and so on and so forth. Yeah, and there's also a test, even though we don't have tests yet, but they will come for sure. So that's the idea behind the makefile. Also, it's like stuff that is not really necessary, but very useful and comes in handy in development. Yeah, so there is no things that are used in the game itself. And here is the README. We'll not read it today. Let's maybe start now talking a little bit about the code from main CPP, which is the main entry point for every C++ application. And as you can see, it's quite small. So it's less than 100 lines of code, 93 with some empty lines. So nothing complex can happen here. You can stay calm. There are some imports for all the Qt related stuff. Yeah? So the main things is QGUI application, the application itself. Then there's OpenGL context. We want to render in OpenGL, but we still use Qt for the application itself. So we go through Qt to create OpenGL context. Yeah, and this is this library which is responsible for that. Then there's a QML application for parsing those QML files and so on. And we have some other things. Window, for example, is also important. Windows is this main window. Yeah, so right now we are in the browser. This is our window. And of course, in every other application, we also want to have a window. And Qt is the one who controls it. And then we have some imports from this repository itself. Yeah, so the main thing is game engine. Game engine is like the heart, the core of everything. So it controls and coordinates all other subsystems and subservices. So everything that exists in the game, it at some level has to interact with the game engine. Yeah, the idea behind the game engine is to be as high level as possible. Is like an ideal to which we strive. It's not yet fully like perfect, although no code is perfect, but definitely some things can be refactored. But the idea behind it is to be like as high level as possible, coordinate all the lower level stuff without knowing the details. Yeah, so whatever data flows between the systems, let's say, and there is like a combat happening here, so it needs to know about what kind of entities are taking part in this combat, what kind of troops, units, what's their health, what's the position, and so on. So the combat system would be responsible just for the combat, but the data and about the entities they're taking part in it will go to it through the game engine and so on. And that's also the case for everything else. So for example, rendering engine will get the current state of the world from the game engine, and it will render based on that. And then we have the GL view. That's where we are rendering in. And so this is on top of, not on top of what I want to say, OpenGL, on top of QML. Yeah, but it opens a view for OpenGL. Yeah, so here is when they both interact. And first we set some environment variables, and that's not that big of a deal. I think we will have to add some more for Windows and for Mac. So this was mostly till now tested on Linux, and I tested it on two different distributions. So one is the one that I'm right now on. It's Linux Mint, but I also tested it on Manjaro, and it seemed to work. And right now we are moving towards also having working Windows version. And so here some additional stuff may come, but the main thing that happens here is to create that Qt application, this GUI application, which is like the whole program itself. As long as this leaves, everything happens. And then is instance of our game engine, which is this big coordinator, which coordinates all the game subsystems. And then we create the application, QML application engine. We register things there. We load the main QML. So this is main CPP. There's also main QML file, which we won't go into today, but maybe in some other video. And finally, we create the window and we set the window into game engine. Yeah, so the game engine knows about the window as well. And we connect two events, or two things. First is to set up the backend, which, as I mentioned multiple times, the preferred backend is OpenGL, but there are some fallbacks. If it is not available for whatever reason, whether it's test environment and maybe someone has some very old laptop or something like this, it will try to bug to have some fallbacks, and maybe it will not work it won't be as optimized as for the OpenGL, which is our default one, but maybe still you can do something there. And the other thing is the scene graph, which is the place from QML where we render everything. And that's it. So most important part for us is the game engine. This is the part that's coming from us, and the other things are Qt related. So what is happening in the game engine? We have to go to the app core, and here is the game engine. And by the way, this app started folder just with the game engine itself. And as the game engine file grew bigger and bigger, I tried to refactor out certain things to other files, and that's how they appeared here. So utils, models, controllers, all of that initially was here. And I tried to keep it as small as possible, but still like 1,700 lines. So definitely still a lot of things can be refactored out. But that's the story behind those other folders. So the thing that happens here is initializing and setting up and connecting, and then overseeing all other subsystems. Yeah, so whatever happens in the game, whether it's rendering, whether it's like AI system, like AI, not like an LLM, but more deterministic AI, and on smaller scale that controls the decision of the enemy player, which is controlled by the CPU. It is initialized here, and there is like an audio manager, which is initialized here. There is like there are some events like cursor movements which are connected here. Well, everything happens or at least starts here, and that's why you see all those imports or all those includes. And at some point I will probably bundle them up into related systems to not have all of them in a single file, but that's the state that we are in right now. And then we have, first things first, the constructor. So what happens when we create a game engine? And as you can see, the constructor is pretty big, and it starts all those subsystems. Yeah? So for example, there's like troop count registry. Yeah, each player has some amount of troops. He can recruit new troops, but he can also lose them in the fight. And there is a registry in which we count how many troops it has right now. There is also, which by the way, I think it could be merged with this global stats registry. So initially I started with just a troop count, then I added some other statistics, and now they are like parallel to each other. But already I'm thinking about how to refactor this. Definitely those two can be merged. So here the stats also keep track, for example, of things like how long is your game, and how many troops of the enemy have you killed, and so on. And there is like a nation registry, so to which group you are belonging. So you have there are like different players on the map, and those players can form alliances. Yeah, and the alliance means that you don't need to, you cannot, of course, destroy the enemy, like not the enemy, the allied forces troops or his buildings. And in order to win, you have to destroy like all the buildings from the other, or all the villages from the other team. Yeah, and there could be as many teams as theoretically your hardware allows, and as much as you want. So everything is open. And by the way, this is something which is quite important, and I think I haven't mentioned it yet. The big idea behind this project is to be as open as possible. Of course, everything is under MIT license. You can take it and do whatever you want with it. But also this philosophy, I try to use it in the design as much as possible to allow you to have as much control as you can over everything. So you can change the maps, you can edit them in text file. For example, all the maps are here in this assets directory and defined in JSON. You can create your own maps. You can also change like the features of different troops. You can add your own nations and things like this. And when right now we have just a skirmish system, but I plan in the nearest future to introduce campaign, and then you would also be able to add your own missions and even your own campaigns. And so the idea is to be as open as possible and have everything open source, and also not only needed to modify through code, but to be as simple as possible when you want to modify or customize something. And we have some things related to renderer, so various renderer systems like biome rendering, terrain rendering, ground rendering, and so on. And then we are adding them with track to with selection system. We have various services. So one of the idea that I used in this design is the idea of microservices. So try to separate and concerns and responsibilities as much as possible into small parts which don't know about each other and which are only coordinated through this game engine. And sometimes, like not directly, but I use queues extensively. So there is this idea about publisher and subscriber, or consumer and producer, and some services produce certain data or certain events. This goes through a queue, and the other one is consuming, and it only knows about this consumed data and doesn't know about the other system at all, and can be exchanged and replaced at any point without much changes in the code. Yeah, so that's one of the idea which is used mostly in the backend, but I think it can be applied in many other places. And we have, for example, the speaking service, victory service, which decides or controls defeat and victory conditions. As I said about this destroyed enemy buildings, but there are also other victory conditions, and it's of course extendable. You can define your own victory conditions, and they are ruled by this victory service. Yes, so this is the one that is taking the events, I think, as well through some queue from the game engine, and whenever it checks for some condition and can say, okay, now this team has won or this team has lost, and the game is over. Yeah, so it's not even the responsibility of the game engine itself. It doesn't know about the rules. It's the responsibility of this victory service. And there is also like safe and low service, which I will talk a little bit more when we start the game. But basically you can, or under the hood, there is a serialization and deserialization of the whole world. So the world is this map on which you are playing. Those are all the individual players, how many of them there are, which are controlled by CPU, which are controlled by you, by the player, and what are the teams, what are the colors, where are all the buildings, where are all the plants, how the terrain looks, and so on and so forth. This is all part of the world. Yeah, and the word can be serialized, converted from this game state to strings, and then saved on disk. And we save it in SQLite database, which theoretically you can open and you can edit however you want. But of course, it's not guaranteed that when you change something that it will still, the game will still be able to load it. But you have this power in your hands. There's camera system, which I think is like a self-explanatory selection system, and so on and so forth. Map catalog, some loader for the maps, and then there's an audio manager, which I said is also custom made, but it's based on here. There's like another dependency, which I think I forgot to mention. In the third party, we have a single header, and that's a whole library on its own, this mini audio, which is under MIT license as well as this project, and it has like 80,000 lines of code, so it's quite big for a single file, but this is the whole library. Yeah, and it allows you to have quite fine-grained control over all the audio systems, and for the purpose of this game, it meets till now all my requirements, and the audio manager that I have written and that exists in the game is written on top of it. And so that's like the low-level utility, and all the game events then subscribe again, the subscribe and consume, or publish and subscribe, or consume and produce. This idea is also applied for audio. Yeah? So there are some events in the game, and like let's say selecting troops, maybe battle is starting, maybe battle is ending, and those events are published to the queue, and then the audio manager knows which audios to play. And right now we have just a couple of them. They're just mock files, but theoretically, I will definitely want to move it out also to some middle service, or maybe not even to initialize it in some middle service, but to have it map specific. Yeah, so maybe there will be various different audios per map, and we don't need to load them at this point. We can load them lazily whenever they are needed on the particular map. So this is something which can be, and I think will be changed in the future. And then we have various connections to the events. So we take the event that Qt controls, and we connect to it, and we run, or we decide that the function that we defined will be run whenever this event happens. There's, for example, some cursor events, selection events. Let's say we have the troops in the game, and whenever I select them and the event is triggered, the Qt knows about this event. Here we connect it, and this function will be called on selection, and here we can define, or it's already defined, what will happen. So let's say we have this example that I started with troops. Well, when I select my troops, I want to have them under my control, but I also want to have some visual indication that the troops got selected. Yeah, so this is the first thing that will happen. You have some visual indication, and then when I press left button again, next event, on the map, I want those troops to move. But which troops? The ones that were selected before. So I have to keep this in memory and somehow keep track of all the troops that are currently selected. But also I want to have ability to deselect them, and so on and so forth. And so all of that events are connected here, and there is more of them. Let's not get lost here. All this big chunk was still just the constructor, but as I said, this is like the most important thing. The game engine, and everything in the game somehow connects to the game engine. Then we have the destructor, and inside the destructor we just close properly the audio system, and here we have some functions that are, I think, connected to events like on right click, on attack click, but here is also some quite low level stuff that definitely could be moved out of game engine, so probably will be refactored in the future. Yeah, there are those commands, and so on and so forth, cursor modes, and And that's it. Okay, so let's not go too deep into game engine. I think you have now some idea at least what it's supposed to do. And the other things in map, not in map, in app folder are the things that are also connected with game engine, but were extracted out of this big file, which could be even bigger, to their own smaller files. Yeah, so there's like command controller, which facilitates various like the switching between various modes. So the troops are normally in the normal mode, or by default in the normal mode when they don't do anything. They could be guarding a building. This is a guard mode. They could be patrolling between two different locations. They can be attacking, and command controller, without going into details, basically facilitates this change of modes or change of commands. Then we have some models like a cursor manager, hover tracker, selected unit models, audio system proxy, and so on, which are also just parts of like some functionalities which were taken out of here, and like a lot of things were connected together. Like there are different things with cursor manager that happens all over game engine, like set mode. We were talking about the mode before, like up the cursor shape, and instead of having them repeated or all over the place in the game engine, I just put them in this one file since they were somewhat related. And that's the app, which app is like main entry, or the second main entry point after main CPP. And then we have all the individual subsystems. Yeah. The next thing is assets. Here are all the like external files, and also some binaries like audio files. We have just till now mock files, but I will add also when I have them real files here, since I don't plan to have like very extensive audio, but there will be some audio and definitely can fit into a repository without taking too much space. Then maps. We have 3 maps right now: forest, mountain, and rivers. And that's how it looks. It's a JSON file which defined everything that is on the word when we start a given map. Yeah, so there are some configurations for the biome. There is a grid, how big this map is, even what are the tile sizes, how many troops per player we can have, where the camera starts, what are the buildings that start, to who they belong, how many players can play here, and so on and so forth. What are the starting forces of each player, and some terrain stuff like are there hills, are there mountains, how big they are, where are the entrances, and so on and so forth. And there will be more of those available configurations available as the project will progress. So those are the things that we have till now, but of course I plan to have more in the future. And meshes is still now empty, but I plan to have certain meshes for sure. For other things, I'm not so sure. So till now, everything is like every rendered model and rendered mesh is defined and created in the code. Yeah, and it takes some CPU work to do this. Of course, it's done, or in theory, it should be done, and not always in practice yet, without overloading CPU too much. Yeah, so we create a mesh, but we don't we try to not recreate it all the time, as there is some caching. And each, like, let's say, troop type or unit type has their own way in which they're rendered, and all of this is defined in their renderers, and these meshes which are getting rendered are defined there. But of course, this has a lot of limitations, since I cannot have like very detailed meshes created in this way. But there's also some advantages, like first of all, I don't need any graphics designer yet. to do this, but also, as I said, the big idea behind this project is to be as open as possible. So I think it will be also easy for anyone whenever they want to change something, just to go to this place in the code and maybe mess around a little bit, make the troops a little bit bigger, wider, I don't know, maybe add a third hand, change the weapon and how it looks. Yeah, it's just some numbers which are inside the code, which are easy to tweak, and you can play with it as well and have a lot of fun. But as I said, it has a lot of limitations. So definitely for things like buildings, which we'll need for our campaign, there's historical campaign which is coming. By the way, we can go out of GitHub and for a quick break to Reddit, which I posted on this RTS subreddit without displaying the real intentions, and just ask people which campaign idea seems most interesting to you, and overwhelmingly they decided that Hannibal versus Rome will be, and playing as Hannibal is the idea that they find the most interesting. So this is the first campaign that I will work on, and for that purpose we'll need two nations, Carthaginians and Romans, and this is the thing that is coming very soon. So till now there is just one nation, which I call Kingdom of Iron, since the game is called Standard of Iron, but Carthaginians and Romans are coming soon. And for the purpose of making this campaign, I will need to have some historical buildings, of course, not in like very great detail, but something like resembling maybe Colosseum or something like that. And this will be very hard to define inside code. So I will need some external meshes for that. Definitely also, right now I am playing with creating horses procedurally, the way I do with the troops, which is a little bit harder. So maybe horses and some other animals will come here as well. And maybe, by the way, I'm not excluding using it for the troops, but definitely there will be a mix of both approaches. And that's the idea behind this. There are shaders, those short programs which are run on the GPU, and everything that is rendered inside the game right now has its own shader. So for example, there's a river shader, there's like a plant shader, pine tree shader, mounted knife, like a cavalry shader, and so on, fire camp, bridge, archer. You can check it. It's not C++, it's this like GSOS, this OpenGL language for those small programs which are run on the GPU and which define how things look like. Yeah, or what are first thing is like a geometry in the mesh, and then what you want to render on top of it, like things like light, like shadows, like colors, and things like this. And textures is also empty, units and visuals as well, but I think I will get rid of them. So initially I thought that I will define something here, but now I want to get rid of it, but those two will be used, but not yet. Then we have render, which everything related to OpenGL is here. And there's really a lot of stuff happening. There's like an order of things which are drawn, defined here. There is a submitter, and each specific thing, like let's say Archer has its own renderer, which is defined here, and those are those meshes that I was talking about. So let's say Archer has various things that it's composed of. It has its pose, which it's based on the humanoid, which is used for all other troops, but it's, for example, redefining where the foot is standing or where is the knee, and so on and so forth. It will have some bow, some attachment, helmet, and stuff like this. And so all of this is defined here, and I use QVector 3D, which is also coming from Qt, and I was thinking about dropping it for some other library, but till now it looks that it works fine. Yeah, so that's the idea behind the renderer, and the main thing in the renderer is the scene renderer. This is like the most important thing. There's the queue, draw queue, which, for example, defines the order. Yeah, so you have different types: grid, selection ring, cylinder, grass, stone, and so on, and then we can define in which order they should be drawn. Stuff like this. And those are all low-level GL stuff is here. So we have camera, we have some wrapper on top of shaders with shader cache. Yeah, as I said, we are caching as much as possible, and the backend, by the way, here is almost the same thing, same story like game engine in the app, which is also growing out of proportion. It's almost 2,000 lines, and I'll also try to refactor it as much as possible, but here all the things come together. And so backend is what for renderer is what game engine is for the whole game. And let's not get lost here. Definitely it needs like a whole episode on its own to explain even what's happening here, but on a high level, here is everything related to rendering, and almost everything is based on this Q vector 3D and building meshes in the code. And then we have scripts. Scripts are just some helper functions which are used for me during development, but are not used in the game itself. For example, the build on Windows is something that I'm working on right now. And setup dependencies is used for Linux and Mac. All the dependencies are run can be installed through this script, and makefile is calling it under the hood. And there are some other helpers. They're not that important. Third party we already discussed. Tools is not yet used, but I want to have some external tools for modders and for people interested in expanding the game. For example, map editor, but doesn't work yet. And then we have translations. All the things in UI, like all the labels, are here. Now we have two versions, English and German, but there will be more in the future. And then finally, those QML files are all here. So in the UI, all the different various UI parts, like the hood, those layers of UI inside the game itself, also the initial screen, the initial UI, and so on. So now maybe let's start the game finally, and I will show you those UI parts. We are on the main branch, and if you want to install the dependencies, you can just do make install. So we are in standard of Iron, and since I have all the installs, all of them installed already, then it will just display information that it's all there. And then once you have installed, all you need to do is to write make run, and it should compile or recompile the files and then start the application. In the meantime, let me drink some water. And here you can see all those QML files. Sorry, I went too fast. Let's start from the main menu. So here is the main menu, which, by the way, you can also trigger when you are in the game by pressing the escape button. So those two menus are not separate yet. Maybe they will be. For example, we have save the game, which save game, which right now doesn't do anything. But if you are in the game, you can save the game, and this will trigger the serialization service that we discussed while we were talking about the game engine. You can load the games that you have saved previously, and this will open the SQLite file that is on your disk and try to like deserialize it back to game objects. And there are some settings. We have some audio and language settings. There will be more settings in the future and exit. And right now we have just one mode of playing, this skirmish, which loads those JSON files, which I said I showed you before, define the maps. Yeah, and in the future there will be campaign coming. Now we have 3 maps. In the maps, there should be at least 2 players. Well, you have a possibility of defining a map with just 1 player, but then here it will not start. So till now it's not yet an option. Maybe it will be in the future. But right now you can have some maps with multiple players, and if you add more in the map definition, you can add them more. By default, I set it to start with 1 main player, which is played by a human, and then the CPUs. And you can assign them to various teams. Yeah, and there should be at least. Let's remove it. There should be at least 2 teams. Yeah, so if was too quick. If we have just 2 players and both of them are in the same team, that it will not allow to start. And let's maybe try with this one, river crossroads. So I'm currently working on the rivers, but for some reason the fog of war is broken, and I'm also working, as I mentioned before, on that cavalry. As you can see, the scale is a little bit off. It also looks quite ridiculous. The movements are not fluid and so on. And here are some of the troops, and the archers. I already tried to make them a little bit in Roman style. But of course, each nation will have their own archers. And as you can see, but by the way, we can also show like zoom in, zoom out the camera. Here is the map, and the fog of war for some reason got broken. So this part on the other side of the map shouldn't be visible. Like here we have some black parts, and here on the other corner, on the other side of the map, is our enemy, which is controlled by this AI system, deterministic AI system defined in the game. Yep. So let's go back here. We have some rivers, we have bridges. Try to make them as natural as possible. Have some. We have some trees, which also need some work, but I don't want to make them like super natural, just a little bit. And as you can see, they go through the bridge, but they don't always go through the center. Like first time it worked, and second time they were floating a little bit here in the air. Also, this river bank is not perfectly aligned with the river. There's water and so on and so forth. And here I'm also working on the fire camps. A lot of elements are coming in, but all they need polish, and also we will need various various different forms or various different ways in which we can render each unit depending to which nation it belongs. So right now there's only 1 nation. So I said we'll want to introduce this Carthaginians and Romans, and they will also can have various formations depending on the nation, a various amount of troops in a single unit, and so on and so forth. So a lot of work is still ahead, but also to just make this happen in OpenGL. And by the way, this overlays here at the bottom and the top, this is this QML. This is this stuff that is defined in the QML. To combine them together and to get the like events, that's something, let's say right now I'm pressing hold button. So to go to an event, to QML, to the game engine, and game engine has to select proper troops and tell them to change the mode from normal to hold. And then also stand up. As you can see, it's not really fluid. They go into the hold mode immediately, which I wanted, but maybe there should be also some transition animation. And when they stand up, it takes some time. As you can see, that's like the stand-up animation, and spearmen also have the hold mode defined for them, which gives them like some advantages against enemy cavalry. And for the archers, it gives them like additional bonus points for attack. It also increases their range. And if they go on top of a hill, and here we have a hill, and there is a bridge that should be a bridge between two hills, but it's not yet also ready. Should be rendered a little bit higher, but as I said, this is something I'm working on right now. And on the hills, they have also some bonus points for attack. Yeah, and that's how it works. We can check if the enemy is ready to attack us. Not yet, it seems. So maybe let's give us some advantage and add a little bit more people to our team. So we'll play 3 versus 1 and try to attack. And here, look, the fog of war here works correctly. So we have 2 allies, a green ally, which we can see what it does, but we are not controlling him, and we can also not harm him. We cannot capture his village. And we have a yellow ally as well. And as you can see, they are already recruiting some troops and preparing for an attack. So let's try to attack. Have to go and find the enemy. Can also go and move the camera left and right. Come on, like this. And of course, we also need much more terrain features, various terrains. Right now, this is a little bit too flat. Even like, let's say, flat terrain should have a little bit more variance and some irregularities when it comes to its height. We will need not only grass, but also mud, maybe some desert terrains as well, more mountainous with maybe some snow. And here we can we found barracks which don't or the village which doesn't belong to anyone. And if we move our troops close enough, we start now to capture it. And if we stay long enough, it will become our village. And now when I press on it, there is production UI, which is activated. Yeah, and I can produce or recruit various troops. I can put 5 in the queue, and I already see that my ally has gathered enough forces to attack, and the other ally is also attacking. And here are the enemy forces. So basically my kid woke up. I had to go and calm her down, but wanted to still show you some footage of real battle and what happens when we capture the enemy barracks. So enemy prefers to now recruit just the cavalry. And now he recruited some archers, but basically we are outnumbering him so much that he cannot do anything. And yes, he now recruited cavalry again, and now we can capture his barracks. And at this point he cannot do anything, and that's basically the whole idea of the fight, is to capture the villages. And when you capture all the enemy villages, then you win, and that's the victory. And then there is some summary, like we killed 140 troops, we lost 24, but there are still some problems here, as you can say. So he killed just 18, but we lost 24, so these counters have to be adjusted. And the playtime was 1 minute 23 seconds. Yeah, and by the end he had 0 villages, and we had 3 villages, since I also captured the one in the middle. And that's it. And so that's how the play works. Now let's go back here. So here's the repo, but I also created this Discord for Standard of Iron for the game and started uploading some clips, which not the Discord, sorry, first TikTok, then Discord, and the first clips got almost no views, so 6 and 9, then around 1,000, and the last clip got more than 12,000, which I don't know how many of those are bots and how many are real people, but either way seems to be much better than YouTube algorithm for recommending videos, since my views on YouTube are usually very low. And here I will try to post updates regularly, so whenever I implement some new feature, I will make a short clip and update it here. And other than that, like bigger or longer format videos will still be on YouTube, and you can follow the repository. You can also commit if you want. You can check the PRs. You can contribute in various ways if you want. And we have also this Discord channel, which I started to talk about, where, for example, all the current development is discussed. So what was done already, and I will not read it now since there's like a lot of various things here. But as you can see, everything is discussed, and some people joined already. So we have a team which consists mostly not of developers, but people, for example, wanting to contribute to the story writing and wanting to share their voice, to help with audio recording and stuff like that. Yeah, so definitely, if this is something that you would like to do or you would like to contribute, then please join the Discord, and we will welcome you.